Yeah.
Hey everybody, it's Christina Louise. Thank you so much for joining me for Parenting for a Peaceful Home. I'm super excited to be with you here today, and I'm so grateful that you chose to show up for yourself and for your children. Today, I'm going to introduce you to a new friend of mine. Her name is Diane Dempster. She is a certified coach, an energy healer, and a really wonderful soul that's here to help you break through whatever is causing you to maybe overreact, underreact, solve that problem with yelling too much, managing your triggers, and really helping you understand what you can do to motivate your children peacefully and create cooperation in your home. Welcome, Diane. Thank you so much for being a part of our program here.
I'm so excited to be here. This is going to be a fun conversation today.
I absolutely agree. So I know that you are the co-founder of an organization called Impact ADHD, but you do a lot more than work with parents with ADHD. You work with complex children, parents of complex children. What do you mean by that exactly?
Well, so it's really interesting because I started as a leadership coach and met my business partner in 2010, and we started having this conversation about our own experiences with kids. And between our two families, we have 6 kids with ADHD and other kinds of diagnoses. And what we identified is that when we became coaches, we became much more the kind of parents that we wanted to be able to be for our kids. And what we found this kind of common experience in our work, and realized that what parents were really missing was some support. There's lots of people out there helping kids and helping, diagnose and treat and manage and that sort of stuff. But there was really nobody focused on helping the parents. And as parents ourselves, we felt really very isolated in the process of supporting our kids. And we also realized that the tools that we were using, that we were teaching to parents who have kids with ADHD, were also tools that were just great parenting. And we also know that kids with ADHD have lots and lots of other things going on. So something like 80% of kids with ADHD have some other sort of learning difference, diagnoses, challenges, whether it's anxiety, depression, whatever else going on. And so we started using this term complex kids because, number one, a lot of people don't get their kids diagnosed because they choose not to, or they're not ready to. And the reality is that this is just great parenting tools for whoever, regardless of what your kid is. But it's really designed to help some of those kids that just don't quite fit the mold, because we realized that some of the traditional parenting methods just were not working with our kids and the kids of the parents we were working with.
So we talked a little bit about this before we started the recording, and I want to make sure that this comes through for the moms watching. Why do you think traditional parenting techniques aren't working so much anymore? I hear that a lot. Would you speak on that?
So the one thing is that there's kind of 2 things that come to mind as you say that. One is about setting realistic expectations, right? So we want to make sure that when we're supporting our kids, that we are setting expectations that make sense for where they are right now. We want to meet our child where they are. And a lot of times what we're taught is our kids should be doing this. And so we create this paradigm, this framework of where our kids should be, and we try to get them to fit into that mold. And that's where the challenge lies, is that you're trying to put a round peg in a square hole, or vice versa, right? And so what you really want to do is really see where your child is, see what their opportunities are, see what their strengths are, see what their challenges are, and really help them to accomplish what they want, what you together want to create as success, and rather than kind of trying to put them into a mold. The other thing specifically, and I know you talk a lot about punishment and consequences, and I hear a lot of parents who are like, the only thing that works is yelling at my kid, or consequences don't work. It doesn't matter. I've taken away every single, I have one mom who I work with who said, I took away every single electronic in my house and my kids still didn't change their behavior. What happens a lot, particularly with kids with some neurobiology challenges like ADHD or anxiety, is that regular cause and effect doesn't work the same way. So you can take away every electronic and it's not going to necessarily change their behavior, because they're not doing it on purpose. It really is something that's going on in the way that their brain is wired.
I love that we're talking about this, the idea that punishment is just not working. It seems to be this outdated mode of operation that's falling by the wayside. And I know I'm just sensing that there's a lot of moms here with us right now who are yelling more than they want to be and are feeling guilty about and really just confused about what is discipline and how do I make sure that I'm not being too mean and I'm not being too nice.
We don't want to lose our power. We want to feel like we are in control of our lives as parents, and we know as spiritual moms that, you know, there's this balance between being in charge of our kids and feeling like there's a balance and a control that makes sense for the family. And we don't want to be mean, but there's this sort of part of us that gets frustrated and feels out of control, and we get triggered, whether we get overwhelmed by the situation or we get upset by the situation, or we actually go into kind of that fight or flight mode where it's like, this can't be happening. You can't treat me this way. I have 2 teenagers, and I work with parents of teens a lot, and there's this issue with disrespect. And so a kid says something snarky, and the natural reaction is, you can't say that to me, I'm your mom. And we get triggered. It's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I'm in this situation where I have a child who's treating me so disrespectfully or who talks to me like that. And you feel out of control, and your natural tendency is, I've got to make this stop. And so being triggered is a really normal reaction. And what ends up happening after the fact is we feel guilty because we raised our voice, or we feel guilty because we weren't as calm as we wanted to be, or we feel bad because we're worried that we've kind of damaged our child's ego, or whatever it is that we kind of feel in reaction to that. But there's this kind of backlash that happens when we do get triggered that really causes some challenges for everybody.
What exactly is a trigger?
So trigger is something that, how would I say it? Something that throws you off balance, right? So a trigger might be, for you, it might be something completely different from me. Things that trigger me would, like, if I'd go on the online system to look at my kids' grades, it's like, oh my gosh, I can't, you know, I'm worried about what's going to happen. And the minute I'd see anything below a C, I'd be like, oh no, here we go again. You know, is that moment where energetically you might feel something in your body, maybe the hair on the back of your neck stands up, or you start getting that pit in your stomach, or you just start feeling kind of a pressure in your chest. But it's that moment of upset. And I think when I'm just saying that, you know, you can think of something in reaction to your kids, whether it's oh my gosh, they're fighting again, or oh my gosh, I've got to go tell their dad that XYZ happened, or oh my gosh, we have to go to Girl Scouts and my daughter always has a hard time getting along with the other girls in the program. You know, whatever it is, there's those things in those instances that tend to trigger us. Mm-hmm. And what actually happens biologically is that the part of our brain that's the problem-solving part of the brain, the frontal lobe, actually shuts down. And it shuts down maybe in 2 ways. One way is that you get completely shut down, and we go into what you call amygdala hijack. I don't know if you've heard that term before, but you go into fight or flight. So, you know, think about a time that you've really gotten upset with somebody. The part of your brain that says, I don't want to yell at my kid, is no longer engaged. And the only part of your brain that is engaged is the part that says, you are not going to do this, and this can't be happening, and I am going to fight you to the death and make this stop. Or I got to get out of here. I'm going to run away. And we all tend to be either fight or flight. I tend to be fight. I don't know. What are you, Christine? Are you more fight or flight?
I'm a fighter.
You're a fighter. But there might be flighters out there, right? So you might be the kind of mom that when your kid gets aggressive, you're like, I can't be here. I have to get away. And you like go and hide in the closet. And that's still that primal sort of animal part of your brain that just literally shuts down everything else and says, I've got to survive. I've got to make this. I've got to change this situation. I can't be here anymore, literally. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And then the other piece of it is kind of the in-between mode, where if we just start getting overwhelmed and a little bit upset about something, we still are not problem solving effectively. We tend to go into the more emotional and habit-based part of our brain. It's like the center part of our brain, I think, where the emotions live. And so we get very emotional about stuff. We tend to do the things that we've done over and over again. So we've got old bad habits that we have, like yelling at our kids. So I'm a recovering yeller. And when I get really emotional, my tendency to yell increases because I go back into that more habitual part of my brain. So it really just depends on how triggered you are and what your natural tendencies are as a person, as a parent.
So what I'm hearing you say is that everybody gets triggered.
Yeah.
Everybody's triggers could be different than anybody else's. So we've got moms being triggered, kids being triggered. What can we do about this?
Well, and that's the thing. It's like moms get triggered because kids get triggered, or kids get triggered because moms get triggered, and then it's just a hot mess, right?
Yeah.
And so
and they call our talk how to avoid the hot mess in your, home.
Right. So number one, the tip I give is get calm, help calm, hold calm, right? So you got to get calm yourself, which means you got to take care of your own triggers. You got to know what things tend to trigger you. You've got to be able to actively manage your triggers. If you know that you have a tendency, like at the end of the day, a lot of us get really exhausted and worn down. And if we have to have one of those conversations with our kids, we're going to be more likely to be triggered if we do it when we've had a good breakfast and we've been to the gym and we've gotten a good night's sleep, right? So it's about noticing and managing our own triggers. And actually, there's a four-step process I can teach. But so it's and then once you kind of are calm yourself, then you want to help your child to calm down. And I think that this is an important piece because a lot of times, even if we're calm, we don't take the time to make sure our kids are calm. Our kids are overwhelmed. They're more stressed out than ever. And we may not even realize it. Your kid might say, I'm fine, leave me alone. And that's a clear signal that they're triggered, right? If they say I'm fine. And then hold calm. And so that means that if one of you kind of gets off balance, you need to agree to stop. If you're trying to resolve an issue, you're trying to solve a problem together. If you're not having success with that, chances are it's because one or both of you is somewhere on that trigger scale. Does that make sense?
It makes sense. Just go over the 4 steps with me one more time.
So I was just telling you that the tip is get calm, help calm, hold calm. So
get
the steps for managing your triggers. So 4 steps to managing your triggers. So I'm going into a second thing here. Don't mean to get complicated.
So that was a tip. Now we're going into the 4-step process.
So step 1 is to know your triggers. And I talked about that. It's kind of like, what triggers me? What situations? What are some of the feelings that I have underneath it? So it's like if I go back to that disrespect, my kid says something snarky, the thought underneath it might be, oh my gosh, I must be a bad mom if I've got a kid who doesn't speak respectfully to me. Or, oh my gosh, my kids are never going to make it in the world. They're going to get fired from their jobs because they can't show respect. Whatever the kind of underlying story is understanding that trigger. The second step is reclaiming your brain. And this is a really important place because we go into that more primal or that more center part of our brain, and we need to get back into the problem-solving part of our brain. So taking a few deep breaths, taking the time out if you need it as a parent, I always take water, is a few sips of water helps you to kind of get back into that more relaxed, more frontal lobe part of your brain. So once you've kind of reclaimed your brain, then you want to choose a new perspective, right? So go back to that, my child's being snarky. If I just say, wow, my kid's having a really hard time showing respect right now, then I can say, how can I help my child because they're stuck? Does my child need compassion? Does my child need space? Does my child need a hug? Does my child need, what is it that my child needs right now that's going to help them to get into a place where they are less triggered and more able to show respect? Because they want, the assumption is our kids want to be good. They want to do what we want them to be able to do. And they're good kids.
I love that you are just reminding everybody that kids want to be good, because I feel in the media, I think I see in the media and in movie, there's just so many slanted perspectives that kids are lazy and they're no good and they're bad boys and they're bad girls and you can't let them get away with that. And, if they're not like these perfect cookie cutter kids that fit in with everybody else and there's something wrong, they're defective. And I went through that as a child. I was labeled literally defective.
Yeah.
And it's so hard. And I know that nobody watching is intending to treat their child that way or label that child that way. I think what's coming through right now is just a reminder to be open to this idea that we could be being subconsciously receiving that programming, and we could be projecting it on our children.
Well, and it happens a lot. I think it happens a lot more with complex kids, right? Because they screw up a lot more than neurotypical kids do. And they have a hard time kind of conforming or following the rules or whatever it is that's kind of causing the complexity. And the thing that I like to do is to assume best intention, right? So whenever I look at my kids or I talk to my clients and they're working on situations with their kids, it's kind of like, if you start with assuming that your child wants to do their best, they want to be successful, they want to be kind, they want to get along. And if they're not able to do that, it's because they're having a hard time and not because with rare exception, not because they're a bad kid.
Right. Yeah, I love that. Well, we've brought through a lot of really valuable information already. I want to take a moment now and let these moms know how they can continue learning from you. And I know that you're offering a free gift, so let's talk about what that free gift is and entice these moms to take advantage of it.
Yeah, so, one of the questions I hear a lot from parents is kind of, how do I motivate my kid? My kid's not motivated. I don't know what to do. And so we've created a 10 tip sheet. What is it? 10 tips on a fact sheet. And that are all about motivation and how to really motivate your complex kid. And I think that it's a great way for parents to kind of get a sense of what we do at Impact ADHD, which is we do coaching and training and support for parents of complex kids. We do everything online or on the phone, which means that it's super easy for parents to connect to us wherever they happen to live in the world. Mm-hmm. And it's just a really great place to ground in and get some additional support that'll take you to the next step beyond our conversation today.
Mm-hmm. So go ahead and click the link below this video to take advantage of that free gift from Diane. Before we say ta-ta for now, is there anything else that you'd like to add?
No, I think that just the message that's coming up for me is we've been talking today is to just give yourself some grace as a mom. It's our experiences are very normal, and it's so easy to judge ourselves when we get triggered or judge ourselves when things don't play out the way that we intend them to do. And that's such a human thing, right? And so it's about believing and knowing that the experience that you're having with your kid is pre-designed, and it's part of what you're trying to figure out and what they're trying to figure out. And just know and trust that that you're going to figure this out. You're a great parent. You wouldn't be here if you weren't already a great mom. And you have such a gift to give your kids and the world. And so just give yourself some grace when things don't go the way that you intend them to do.
Awesome. That was beautiful. Thank you so much for sharing your work with us today. Everybody grab that free gift from Diane by clicking the link below the video, and I'll see you again with another video interview. Bye.
Bye. Thanks.